Welcome back to the Supercoach Hub AFL Classic podcast. You're on once again with the host, Scobie_Supercoach Hub, which is myself. Unfortunately, we're a man down tonight, but we've got the superstar maestro next to me. Joshy, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Verns is again not here. Very unreliable man, but we miss him.
We do. See in the comment section, the Sir 420, his anime friend Verns is not here. Verns is actually sick, so we're not sure if his Supercoach score this week is actually reflecting on his health right now because they were both poor. But we hope that he's
Mm.
well and that he bounces back next week. Joshy, how'd you go this week, mate?
Not too bad. I think slightly above par. I scored a 2025, up to 5.3k rank now, so something to build off. I think with best 18, the scores are like it's a lot harder to like get a lead on people with best 18, like just because a lot of people are missing out on the shit scores and like a lot less players obviously scoring. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at the rankings, like you're going to tell your rank soon, but you're not that far ahead of me on points, which is kind of like it's giving me a chance to go back up the ranks, I think.
Yeah, this week was all right for me purely because of the Gold Coast boys. So big shout out to Sam Clossy and Will Graham. They were fantastic on the field for me. I scored a 2099 and moved up to 1.4k, which is pleasing. But I think this round is a little bit more confusing, so to speak. What's your trade plans currently, mate? If any, of course.
At the moment, it looks like I'm probably going to be boosting Sanders out, McKercher out, and also at the moment Rory Laird out. There's a few red flags
Interesting.
there that I won't go into completely, but just basically 48% CBAs. Saliga and Rankin got a lot more time in there, and it worked. This is a team that was 0-4 leading into this round and just beat a team that was 4-0. So I think they'd probably stick with what has worked, and the fact that Laird only had 68% time on ground and was benched for the last 6 minutes when the game was on the line, it's just very worrying for me. So I think he might be out along with those two other rookies and planning to bring in Heaney, Took Miller, and Closey.
Very nice, mate. Very nice. And you actually went the opposite because a lot of people, I guess, decided to trade in Clossy last week and wait on Will Graham. Fairly sure you did the exact
Yeah.
opposite of that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did the opposite, but it was for good reason. Like I had a full six defenders down back.
Yeah.
So Closey probably would have been stuck on my bench. And after Clark and Carroll were named sub, I was like, oh, I'd kind of want another extra midfielder. So got Graham, and you can't complain with a 90.
No, absolutely. You cannot. You definitely cannot. I think my trade plans this week, looking at it, is I'll just be doing one, and it's a little bit left field, but I really liked Kane McAuliffe's game. I know he didn't set the
Mm.
world on fire score wise, but I thought he was very good. And their midfield is absolutely depleted. They do have a bye this week, but I will most likely be going McKercher to McAuliffe, and that's purely because it's one, it frees up a lot of cash going into next round, but also it allows me to loop in the midfield. And I mean, I know it's best 18, but every chance you get to loop, always take it. Always take it.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
there's never I've never been told something so true in fantasy formats, whether that's looping for, AFL fantasy, super coach, whatever it might be. If you get the chance to loop, just do it. So I'm looking at going McKercher out and McAuliffe in purely because I guess, hopefully forecasting him to do better than what he previously has done just through that opportunity in that Richmond midfield. But I think that's short and sharp for our trade plans, mate. If you want to move on to the
Mm.
market summary, we'll let you go for it, mate.
Yeah, no worries. So we'll start with the most traded out players. And we'll go 5-1. And the fifth most traded out player at the moment is Caleb Windsor. 6,616 teams have traded him out. He's only made the 71k this season, and his break even's still 44. So you could possibly keep him, but I think a lot of people are getting rid of him just because he's on the buy now, and they're breaking him at 44. Yes, there's still money probably to be made, but probably not too much. So I
Mhm.
can see why people are trading him out. But what do you think?
Completely concur. I don't think he was a bad selection to begin with. I think if you didn't start with him, but then traded him in, then that was an error.
Yeah,
And that was something that I was highly looking to do. We spoke a lot regarding Windsor because he did look good. And at the G, playing on the wings, you'd expect a little bit more than him. But if you didn't start with him and you didn't pick him up, he really hasn't burned you that much. But as I said, if you didn't start with him, then traded him in, and now you're looking to trade him out for, only 70K, so to speak, I think that's a bit of a waste right then and there.
yeah, I completely agree. If you did use a trade and it's stiff, but we've used trades and some bad players like Harms to Billings and Billings
Oh,
out straight away, but it just happens in this game. Um, the next one, the fourth most traded out is Sanders, and 9,369 teams have done it so far. And as I said before, I'm trading Sanders out, but with a 49 break even, and Liberatore out, you can definitely keep him. Fuck Luke Beveridge, he's an
mm,
absolute idiot.
yep.
There was so many players playing worse than Sanders, and he's just, he's really stuffed us around. But I can completely see why people would keep Sanders. I personally would like to too, but I really want to get Heaney in, and he's probably that guy that I need to trade out to get him. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm totally with the 9,300 people have traded him out purely because I'm one of them.
See, there's a lot of commentary going around, especially on X, about how he reacted to being subbed. Now,
Mm.
I'm all for that, completely all for that. I'd be a little bit more concerned if he got subbed and literally just showed zero emotion, walked to the back of the bench, had a sip, took his jumper off, got changed, whatever, and that was it. I mean, excuse me, this is a kid in his first year that wants to play. He wants to be on the field. Of course, he's going to be pissed off. I'm actually all for keeping him one more week. I'm not scared of that break even. Libba's not going to play. We know that due to concussion. But it just makes me think, like, if Bevo has any sense, and I know that is a huge if, he's got to be playing this kid in the guts. Like, he looked really good in that first quarter, and obviously they're not going to have Libba in there. I would be highly surprised if Sanders doesn't play midfield, and I would be absolutely shocked if Bevo just drops him. Like, I know there is a possibility of that, but I would be completely and utterly gobsmacked if that happens.
Oh, anything's possible with Bevo, and it would be such a Bevo thing to just
It
go, you
would.
know what, you spat the dummy, go play VFL and see like what you have to work for to play AFL. Would be a complete thing that he would probably do, but um, yeah, as I said, I'd love to keep him if I could, but it's just I need to get that upgrade in. I think it is Heaney, well, it will be Heaney, but I can absolutely see why people would want to keep him.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
third most traded out, someone that I think we both got out last week in Blake Howes.
Yes.
9,966 teams traded out now. Breaking even at 21, so probably still has a bit more cash to make, but the buy this week. So I completely understand why people are doing it. What's your thoughts?
I mean, if you held him, it was kind of a win-win situation if you did trade or if you did hold, because
Mm.
he didn't make that much cash last game, so the sellers aren't at that much of a loss. But the people that held, I mean, he's got the break even at 21, as you just said. Like he potentially could make some more money, which would be fantastic for the people that do own him. But I mean, I'm not against trading him out. Like I did it myself. But I think it's a win-win situation. Seems like a good scenario for either.
Yeah, absolutely. The second most traded out player is another one that, caught one of the subvests, which was actually quite of a pain in the ass this week, the subvest.
Mm,
Quite a few players were affected by it. But Jai Clark, coming off a massive score of 2, has been traded out by 11,000 teams. This one's so disappointing. Like only 59K made, breaking over 74 now. He's probably going to get dropped as well with Dangerfield coming back in and Guthrie not that far away. I can completely understand the trade out, but the only thing that I am against is that, because he hasn't made that much money, you're not going to be gaining much by trading him down, or even a lot of people are trying to find the cash to trade it up to a combat or something. But yeah, he's a dead rookie now. I don't think he's going to make much more money, so it does make sense why people are trading him out.
I just don't. Not talking Supercoach, just talking, I guess, future improvement. I have no idea, nor do I understand why he was the sub. I don't get that. For him to improve as a player, what's the point of him playing absolutely like no game time? Would he not benefit
Mm.
more being in the VFL, playing an entire gig and just doing his thing? I just there's, as you said, this sub vest was an absolute prick last round, but there's more questions there than answers. And like I've looked at trading Clark out, but I think you're bang on. Like honestly, he's made just under 60K. What's the point? Like a trade's not
Mm.
worth that. I mean, if somehow that vest score comes out of his rolling average, then his break even is going to go a little bit lower. I think you just got to be patient on Jai Clark. Like honestly, for 60K, that seems a huge waste of a trade. Just getting him out.
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree. The most traded out player, another player that I spoke about getting rid of, Colby McKercher, 36,940 teams. Really, really disappointing that he got that injury. I think he still had a bit more cash to make. Ended up dropping 16K. So that's not ideal, but the break even at 101 now, you could hold him for the longer term, in 2, 3, 4 weeks when he eventually starts to make money again, get that break even down. But I don't know, with that 6 in that price cycle now, you're probably
Mhm.
better to talk about with break evens and what that's going to do for his price. But I think I just want to move him on now, cash him in. Yes, he's probably going to make money down the track, but I want to upgrade as quick as possible.
I mean, it's pretty poor, isn't it? Like it's just,
Mm.
I mean, you don't wish injuries on anyone, but God, it was just like I wasn't watching the game, I wasn't checking the scores, and then I checked him, and I literally just saw what he did score, and then it was like what's happened, found some info, and then just thought, oh God, that's terrible. But apparently Clarko hasn't really spoken to him, which I found was weird. So there was no real updates on him. So, but
Mm.
if it's ribs and he's okay, I mean, he's going to be ginger for a little bit. Like you don't just magically take a hit, get subbed out in the ribs, and then be 100% for the next week. So,
Yeah.
I genuinely have no issue downgrading McKercher at all. As I said, I'm going McKercher to McAuliffe. McAuliffe's even on a buy. It just works well for me as I can loop you bank cash. If he doesn't play this week, I think you almost have to trade just without, it's a triple figure break even. I think you're almost like you are forced into a trade there. If you can work some DPP action, then go for it. But I think where the obvious option is just replace him with another midfielder.
Yeah, spot on. I completely agree. You're right with ribs. Like he's going to come back ginger even if he does play. Like obviously he went to hospital, so it must be kind of serious.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I think I can see why people would keep him, but also I'm trading him out. Uh,
yep.
we'll move on to the most traded in, and the first one is someone that he scored well, but I'm a bit skeptical on to go early on. It's a bit risky, I think, just purely because Cullen Dawson's not that far away. Toby Pink, yes, he got destroyed by Mackay and Kerno, but a couple of good weeks in the VFL could come back in, and Combin's going well. So big go on Newen, 7,587 teams are trading him in. I think it would be best to maybe wait a week on him, but I think some people might be desperate. What's
Mhm.
your thoughts?
I mean, you've got to wait, surely. Surely you
Mm.
have to. I mean, as soon as lockout lifted, I mucked around with trades. Like I was going to booze. Biggie was in. Besides having an absolutely sick name, he did play well. So I
Yeah.
just think we've been very very lucky with rookies, so to speak, so far. But He's got a negative 41 break even. You've still got to wait. You just have to wait because, like, worst comes to worst, he gets dropped and he's a dead rookie. Like, there's always a possibility of that. I know it's
Yeah.
not likely, but there's always that possibility just looming around.
Yeah, absolutely. Fourth most traded in player, and Carlton needed him back for their midfield, but they still lost, which was really nice to see for the first time this year.
Mm,
Sammy Walsh, 13,308 teams trading him in, obviously off the back of that 166, which I'll tell you what is a bloody impressive score coming off no preseason, basically, and obviously no match fitness or anything. I would prefer to wait a week, but at that 576K, I can see those who are upgrading why they'd be getting him this week, just purely because he's well underpriced if he is fit. But given how many back issues he's had both in the preseason, during the season, even last year and years prior, I think the best move is probably to wait another week before getting him in.
yeah, I mean, he looked absolutely sensational. And as you said, I mean, to score that off a preseason with literally zero involvement, and he just went nuclear. Like he was so good, but again, you've just got to wait. Like it's a back issue. There's no definitive on that. You don't know if he's 100% over it yet. He's 100% clear. Like it's just, especially with a back, those things can just
Mm,
twing at any point in time. So you've got to wait, mate. You've got to wait. That's my opinion on it.
absolutely, I agree. Just with that injury history, it's a bit risky, I think.
Yeah.
Charlie Comben, third most traded in player. 16,000 teams have got him in so far this week, and that brings his total to nearly 32,000 teams that own him. Obviously, that big 129 in the first game he played, and then a 75. So, two decent scores. But my only issue is that $227,000 price tag. Like we spoke before, Jai Clark getting him up to him, it costs you around 40K. Even like a Lazara, a Windsor, you're only banking like 20, 30K from trades like that. And you're going to get that in most type of trades. Even a Carroll, you're only going to bank like 17K or whatever it is. So I think, yes, you can potentially get him in with that minus 75 break even, but I just don't want to pay that much money for someone. Like it's feels like a wasted trade for me, just purely because I'm not banking anything, or I'm going to have to pay up to get him. But I can see why a lot of people are getting him in.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely understandable, and he's going to get the DPP as well. But it's when a price starts with a two instead of a one, it just makes me think like surely there's got to be someone waiting in the wings that you could potentially wait a week on, and then you just someone that we've already spoke about, Biggie, who's at 123K. He's literally 100K cheaper. Just
Mm,
wait, just wait. Like Combin, if I'm looking at this correctly, let me find the graphic. Combin scoring 80s makes 130K going into round 8. So it's not as if it's a one-way ticket to the moon, so to speak. And this is scoring
mm,
80s. Like yes, it's going to be
yeah,
good points on field, but if he drops to 65, that cash gen is absolutely screwed.
yeah,
Absolutely screwed. You
yeah.
just
I
bank
agree.
100K, wait a week, get Biggie instead.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think on the weekend he was playing on the number one key forward. Like Hawkins was out, but I'm pretty sure he was on Cameron.
Hmm.
If that continues, he's going to be playing on Mitch Lewis next week. The week after that, Tex Walker. Week after that, or the 2 weeks after that, both the King twins. Like these are all really hard matchups that he's potentially going to face. And we saw with Pink, we saw with Draper. These young key defenders, if they cop a monster key forward or a really hard matchup, they are prone to low scores. So it's risky, like as you said, only making, or I say only, but making 130K from scoring 80s, which is pretty hard to do for a key defender. Such a young key defender, I think I'll be missing out on that personally.
I mean, I
Um,
think you'd be
yeah,
happy to miss out on that. Like everyone sees that, 120 plus score and then what he scored as well. But he's got to be putting out huge scores for a rookie, so to speak, to be making coin.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Second most traded in player, I don't even think we need to talk about him. It's just the most obvious trade in. Sam Closey, 20,985 teams have traded him in. A total of 96,840 teams have him now. Minus 174 break even. If you don't get him in, you're you just might as well just delete the app. You might as well delete your team if you don't get him in. A score of 57 rises in 106k. So it's basically just a free hit, scoring well. I have nothing else to add. You just got to get him.
I mean, it's it's insane. Like this bloke has just been absolutely phenomenal. If he goes at 75 by round 8, he's going to be above 300k with a break even of 29,
Yeah, wow.
and like that's 200k in literally like 4 to 5 rounds. That's you just bring him in, simple as that.
Yeah, I think I saw something on Twitter. I can't remember who tweeted it, but I think he has to get something like a low hundred to beat Goulden's record of the highest price
Yeah,
rise ever.
yep.
Obviously, Goulden in his first year started with those two 130s. He was always destined to be a star, but it'd be interesting to see if he can actually break that all-time record of a price rise. It would be pretty cool record to
Oh,
see. And it'd be
it'd
lovely
be
for us super coaches.
insane as well. And like he's not just a rookie to make cash. Like there's points on field as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this week, I think I'm going to be benching Zach Williams over him, for instance. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I think you can already trust him. 2 tons, obviously locked into that side. I don't think there's any possible way he can be dropped. But yeah, his teammate is the most traded in player in Will Graham. So far, 47,000 teams have traded him in. Another one with a really, really low break even, minus 91. A score of 44 makes him 62k. So
Yep.
67, 91 scores so far. I think he had 14 tackles on the weekend against the Hawks, which is just absurd for a second game player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm getting him in. I think you're getting him in.
I got him last week.
Oh yes,
I,
yeah,
I
that's
went
right.
I went early on him. I actually, and I know hindsight's a wonderful thing. Clossy did outscore him though, but I think I told you and spoke to you about it last week that I liked Graham's game actually better than Clossy's,
Yeah,
just
you did. Yep.
purely because well, with the I guess the movement of Flanders to that half back line where he just racks it up. Like we don't need to talk about him. He's a lock for, in my opinion, top 2 forwards. It just leaves another spot in that midfield, and it looks like it's just Graham's now.
Yeah. Well, Suns were always going to be keeping that tight knit midfield group, like 3 to 4. I think Dimmer said early in the season he's not going to be like these other teams where they roll like 5, 6, 7 players through there. But yeah, you exactly right. Graham's taken up Flanders' CBAs. Like he's had 49% and 43% in the last 2 weeks to be the fourth most used mid for the Suns. Yeah, I think it's just an absolute no-brainer and completely right. He's got an amazing role in, 14 tackles as second game player. That's really, really good. I remember that night I didn't watch the game. I was working and I think he was 25 points at halftime or something. And I was like, oh God, this is not great. And
He just wasn't
to my
finding the ball.
surprise, yeah, but to my surprise, I'd come home and see he's on 91. I was like, you beauty. So if he, as you said, if he doesn't find the ball, his tackling is going to get him the points.
At one stage, he had more tackles than disposals, and his score was
Yeah,
looking all right. And then he just kept getting the pill, and his score just kept going up and up and up, and it was fantastic. Really worked into that game well.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. So if you want to move
Wonderful.
on, we can move on now.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, we'll get to some questions now. We've got a fair few of them lined up here. Jono says, G'day, legends. Thoroughly enjoy all your insights into this great game we love. I mean, we love it at times. Trades for me this week is Combin and Graham in for my cousin Jack Carroll and McKercher, Steele into Heaney for my VC&C. Firstly, your VC&C, there's no issues with that at all in my eyes, mate. Trades, I don't mind them, but I'm not for Combin at this stage. I can understand the merit to it, but I'm not comfortable relying on someone like that to score upwards of 80 each game. I mean, he could, but I think I'd just prefer to be patient and hope Biggie goes well, and then I'll jump on him next week. What are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I completely agree about waiting the week for either Biggie or even McAuliffe. Just purely because like McKercher out to Graham, good trade. I really like that. But as we said before, that Carroll to Comben trade only makes like 15K. So it's
Mm.
just I don't think it's worth a trade personally. It comes down to how much you value on field points. Like he's probably going to be a lot more reliable than a Wilson or let's say a Cadman or those type of players on field. But at the same time, I think Bigoa can also score 60s, 70s and be kind of reliable. In terms of those VC and C options, they're awesome. I think I'm actually rolling with that at the moment with no real obvious captaincy choices this week. But yeah, I just don't know about Comben.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on it. I just, as I said, I think I'm too scared for him to drop a 65 or a 55, and then you're screwed. Like
Mm.
it just seems that you'll get one price rise out of him, and you are going into every weekend hoping that a 227k player that you brought in is going to just pump out an 80 each week, and he may do that, absolutely, but I don't want my entire Supercoach, my mood towards Supercoach to be resting on Charlie Comben, so to speak.
No.
Next one, we've got the Surf 420. Glad to see you here, mate. Current plan for me is to go Clark to Graham. I could go Sanders to Graham, but I think Sanders is a hold until Bevo confirms Sanders is a sub and not slotting into Libber's open spot. Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. I see nothing wrong with that at all. I highly doubt Sanders is going to be the sub. If Bevo wants to keep his job, he's got to play some of these kids, and Sanders looks to be the best of them. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I completely agree as well. Clark, as we said before, is a bit of a dead rookie now. To Graham, though, that's a really good trade. And as I said before, Sanders' break even's still 49. With Libber out, he's probably going to get back in, play a full game. And we've seen with the full games this year already that he can score well. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
already produced some really good scores. I think he's only 2 low scores have been the sub-affected games. So as I said, I really would like to keep him, but I really want Heaney. But Clark to Graham, I think you just stick with that for now.
Wonderful, wonderful. Global, it's so good to see you here, mate. Hugo Garcia will be in most teams next week, trust me. I'm not going to comment on this at all, Joshy. I'm going to let you have this one, mate, because you actually did a nice little write-up of him.
Yeah, well, last night I was looking at potential guys I could trade in the coming weeks to, downgrade to.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at Garcia and I saw the 43 points. I was like, that looks all right because he was sub. And then I looked into it deeper and 43 points in 37% game time. It's very good points per minute. He had something like his CBAs were in the 30s, high 30s, and it was the fourth most out of any of the Saints mids behind, I think, Winhager, Steele, and also Ross. So that's solid as well, especially when the game was on the line. Ross putting one of his young subs into that midfield mix late in the game was pretty good to see. And he's a really good tackler, I found out. In his VFL games, he had 14, he had 9, had 7 in very limited game time in the AFL, kicked goals in both his VFL games. I just think that if he can get into this best 22 this week, he's a massive watch because I think his points per minutes looked really good last week. And I think he's a kind of a sleeper for a rookie at the moment at that lowish price tag at 117K and mid forward eligibility.
Lovely, mate. Lovely. The Surf 420 again. Nathan Joshy, I DM'd you my team. Do you see a way to do an upgrade with it this round by boosting for 30 trades? Otherwise, I'm just going Clark to Graham. At this stage, I don't even know if Clark to Graham I can understand, but when I'm looking at your team, and by the way, I don't know what you screenshotted it on, mate, but it is so hard to view. That's much better. Right. If I was going to do something, it would be probably Sanders, Clark out for just Graham, and I'd probably just go on McAuliffe as well, mate, honestly, and build the bank. You've got 27K in the bank. You've still got 32 trades before trading. Build the bank, go heavy next week. Like, your team's in good stead. I don't understand why you would push to upgrade, so to speak, when there's no real need to right now. Like, there's no glaring errors. And I know, obviously, everybody on the audio or in the live stream can't see it, but it's a very generic team. There's no like standout errors that you need to fix straight away. I mean, it seems like you can grab Graham this week, grab McAuliffe as well, and then you wait next week, and then you bring Biggie in, and then you get a premium in for, say, a Massimo, or you could even ditch Cadman up to a premium, mate. That's my advice. Josh, you've got anything different there, mate?
No, I completely agree with you. I think if he was to upgrade this week, it would probably be forcing it, just looking at his side. I agree with you. Build that bank up. You can probably keep Sands for another week. I think the only trade I'd be making is someone down to Graham. Looking at his team, I'd probably do Sexton down to Graham instead of Clark, because at least Clark's a chance to play. I don't think Sexton's getting back into that side. But other
Yep.
than that, I don't think anyone else he should be trading out. I mean, Toby Pink's a bit of a dead rookie, but I think most teams have a dead rookie. You know, a
Yeah.
lot have Zach Reed, a lot still have Gibkiss. I have Caulfield.
Yeah,
It's just what
same.
we're going to deal with at the moment. But yeah, I don't think he should be upgrading this week. It's probably going to be forcing it.
Yep, and just like you don't have to upgrade every single week. Like, don't ruin
Mm.
your team and future upgrades. Like, you want these absolute superstar players. Say if you're 70K off and you can't get them this week, then just don't worry about it. Like,
Mm.
just be patient. Be patient. Our next question is, I like this one. This is one of my favorites. How good was the Blues choking against the Crows? It was absolutely fucking sensational. Next time we've got Clarkey. If you held it, it's an easy switch to Andrew.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He's talking about Mac Andrew.
To
He's one
be
of his biggest
fair,
fans.
we should all probably take a little bit of advice from Clarkey, because this bloke is ranked, I think, inside the top 200. So he definitely knows his super coach.
Yeah.
He did bang on about Heaney all preseason and then proceeded not to start him. So well done there, mate. That was really good. Maybe next year. Arthur Mongrel, how much longer do we hang on to Massimo for? I mean, you could hang on to Massimo for a couple more rounds, but as soon as he drops a stinker, you got to get rid of him, because he's going to start to bleed. He's not the worst on-field option. You just pray to God that he doesn't get stuck on the bench in the last quarter. He's a bit prone to that, like Zach Williams, but I don't see, if you can upgrade him, fantastic. If you're not forcing it, but there's nothing wrong with having him on field this week, mate. What are your thoughts, Joshy?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm looking at his break even now, it's still only 34. So I think my plans at the moment, looking at your price projections, my plan is next week to trade them out around 350, 355K, purely because I'm Operation Get Zach Merritt next week. Firstly, just because I want to own him going to Anzac Day, just for like a good feel reason, but also his fixture coming up is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, he's got in the next after next week, in the next 10 weeks, he has like I think it's West Coast twice. He's got North Melbourne. He's got Richmond. He's got Collingwood twice. Has Geelong, which have like one of the most weaker midfields at the moment, despite playing really good footy. I think he's just someone that I need to get in as soon as possible, and Dan Brazier is probably going to be one of those guys to go. But you can hold him for 2-3 more weeks, I reckon.
Yep. Understood, mate. Understood. Jack, can't think of any trade. The one I like the most is out McKercher Sexton, in Garcia and Comben with 260K left. In that instance, if you are hellbent on Comben, depending on your boosts, I'd be tempted to boost and get a premium in this week. only if it's a premium that you have been wanting to get, not just one to say, oh, I'm getting a premium in this week. What's your thoughts, Joshy?
Yeah, I kind of like the trades how he is building up that the cash in the bank, obviously to upgrade in the coming weeks. Sexton is a dead rookie, as we were just saying before, so probably nice to get him out. And McKercher's got the 101 break even. But just with Garcia, I just pumped him up. I think I'd still rather wait the week. He plays Thursday night. I guess if he's not subbed, you can maybe get him. But I think he's one of those guys that you're probably best to wait one more week to just see how he goes. Does he get a full game? Does he still score well? And then ultimately, does he hold his spot the next week as well on the bubble? And then Combin as well. I think I'd almost rather get in a McAuliffe like you are and getting in a biggie, and he'd build that cash in the bank by even more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it would depend on how many boosts are left. If you're down to, like 2 left, then I probably wouldn't do it.
Mm.
But yeah, I the only reason I like McAuliffe so much is I think Uze literally needs to play him. He was quoted to say last game that he's earned the right to play a full game in the midfield. Now, you can read into that two ways. You can say that he's pumping him up because he's genuinely done the work and deserves it, or he's pumping him up because literally they have no midfielders who actually play midfield, so they need to play the kid. But either
Mm.
way, I'm fairly happy with what I saw from him. And again, it's the benefit of looping, which I'm huge on. Blues fan. Oh, it's a terrible name. McKercher to Merritt, Cadman to Biggie, and King. Oh, goodness. Early on a mid-rook. Kane McAuliffe, Garcia. Not ideal going early on a mid-rook, but got Graham and Clossy last week. Very well done. And think most bring in one of them next week. Thoughts? I actually like this a lot. Cadman can still make money if he pops off, but I know you're going early on Biggie. I would probably prefer it to be McAuliffe over Garcia. And depending on your boosts left, I actually like that. I like that a lot. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I agree as well. In terms of, I really like McKercher to Merritt, Cadman to Biggie as well. It's not too bad, but maybe wait the week on Biggie if you can. But in terms of Garcia and McAuliffe, I would go McAuliffe as well. But the only thing I will caution about McAuliffe is just hearing you talk about how he's got Uze has no mids to pick from at the moment. Thompson Dow was listed as test last week, so he'll be ready to come back in. Hopper's listed as test now, and Dion Prestia is listed as 3 weeks. So after the bye, Prestia is going to be 2 weeks. Dow and Hopper are likely going to be fit. Does that push McAuliffe out? I hope not. Does it make him the sub? Potentially. But yeah, that's 3 real Richmond midfielders that could come in and take his spot. So that's my only concern about getting him this week before he's obviously selected to play again and get his first cash rise.
I mean, just to continue on with what you said, and not to poo poo on those players too much, but Presti is always injured. Like, this man doesn't
Yeah.
play continuous games of football. Hopper is probably the only one that I can see that warrants a midfield spot there, and they've been talking about Thompson Dow for ages. Yet all he can do is handball. That's it.
Yeah, I know that, but it's the fact that they actually did pick him though. Like I know I don't rate him as a player, but I think Uze does in Richmond just purely because he was getting that game time. But I agree with you. I don't think Dow's that good a player. All he can do is handball. But early season when he was getting that game time, it looks like they do rate him a bit.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I just think, as I said, like, they don't. They need something in there. Like, they need to try something. They've got to give extended games to kids in there. And I know that kind of goes against what I just said about Dow, but let's be honest, Prestia isn't going to be in their next, I guess, top 4 tilt team. Hopper
He's
might be because he's on a 45,000 year contract, but there's no absolute polish and class in that midfield for me. I mean, yes, Dusty runs through it. Yes, Bolton runs through it, but they're going to spend, at best maybe 60-40 midfield and then forward. They don't have any genuine midfielders that are absolute superstars, so to speak. And I think the only way to unearth superstars is to give these kids extended games in there. Like McAuliffe, don't get me wrong, McAuliffe didn't set the world on fire. He absolutely didn't by any means. But what he did do, he did well. And I think you can't just, it's kind of like the Finn McRae situation again. Like you can't have these kids coming in for one game and then back to the VFL for 4 or being the sub 2 weeks in a row. They don't progress. That's what I said about Clark earlier on. Obviously from Geelong, like being the sub, he would have benefited so much more from just playing a full game in the twos rather than sitting on a bench, coming on, doing, absolutely nothing because they're up by 1,000 points against North. Like it doesn't, I guess, accelerate their growth, so to speak. But if we're going back to this, I have no issue with this. I assume it's the King from St Kilda. I have no idea why you would have picked him in the first place. But key forwards, no thank you. They're just like Supercoach kryptonite right then and there. Next question. Oh, this is a good one. Yes, the Sir 420. Nath, your uncle from the Port Adelaide window store would like to know if pineapple on pizza is yuck or yum. It is definitely yum. Joshy, what's your thoughts?
Oh, disgusting. That's just, it should be punishable by law.
Wow. Someone has just shown his degenerate side. Wonderful. Wonderful. Liam Clark, I don't mind passing on Clossy if you're getting Mac Andrew, already 300k and will score a lot more going forward. It's a non-brainer for me. Clarky, you got warned at the end of last week's stream. This is your second warning. Don't make me go to the third. The Sir 420. Is Zorko a smoky pick for a forward premium? Should keep his roll down back as Archie will go forward with McKenna coming back. Yeah, but what? There's too much uncertainty there. There's actually 2 players from Brisbane I was half interested in. Zorko is one of them and Cam Rayner is the other, purely because of Bailey's, newfound injury. He's going to be out from 4 to 6 with his ankle issue. I mean, if Bailey's not there, Rayner only had 38% CBAs. Bailey had, I think it was 33. Does that go up to, 55 for Rayner? Does that put Zorko still down back? There's too much uncertainty there. I'd rather wait a couple of weeks, pay, 30, 40 extra K and have that assurity that he actually is staying there and going to be a forward premium. Because right now he is. In my opinion, he is. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I don't know if Archie is definitely going to go forward, but, the Sir's a Brisbane fan, so he probably knows more than I do. But McKenna coming back, that does worry me a bit about Zorko. The fact he's 35 years old and has injury history in the last couple of years also worries me about him. But, I mean, this looks like it's the season for injured players' redemption because Yo and Fife haven't got injured yet and so hasn't Zorko. But at the same time, with Bailey out, does Zorko go forward now? Like, Zorko can play that mid-forward role. McKenna's coming back in. As you said, there's just too much uncertainty, I think. A lot of questions, not many answers. And I don't know, at 530k, it's a bit much for Zorko now compared to what you could pay for him at the start of the season. And with that injury risk, I don't think I'm going to completely barrage anyone that picks him, though.
Yeah, No, I can understand that. It's just uncertainty. I'd rather be patient and wait. Having to pay, an extra 20, 30k and then be 100% certain, I think I'd sleep better at night knowing that. Clarky again. Where are we? It's going to be best 22 soon. Much rather field combine over shaky job security players like Biggie, Puku, and Wilson. I can understand that, but you've got to weigh up, like, what does that 100k get you elsewhere? If you're going to pick a Biggie over a Combin, what's that 100k going to do for you? And it seems like Booker's got decent job security. Depending on Callan Dawson's injury, I'm not 100% all over that, so I don't know. But I assume if he's out for an extended period of time, Biggie's going to play, and it seems like Ross the boss actually likes Wilson. So I don't think the job security is that bad. Joshy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Wilson's job security is bad at all. Hasn't been subbed off yet, hasn't been starting sub. played every single game, including all the preseason games, and he's been backed since the start.
Mhm.
You're completely right. Like, yes, Combin is you'd much rather field him over a lot of these guys. Like, probably not Darcy, just purely because he has that second ruck role and is kicking snags. But over the
Yeah.
guys like a Wilson, like a Cadman, like a Lazaro, like all these guys, yes, you probably would rather have Combin on field, but you're completely right with what can you do with that 100K? And is that 100K that you end up spending on getting Combin over someone else, is that actually worth it? I'm not too sure. But Clarkey is bang on that there is a lot of concerns over the job security of firstly Biggie, just purely because of Dawson and Pink. If he ends up getting back in there, he was favoured before Biggie at the start of the season, and
Mhm.
also Buku, his coach. It's not good, not good. So
No, no.
both of
It's
them do
it's
have shaky. Yeah,
I mean, it's sad when you've got to consider the coach as well in Supercoach selections, but hopefully Bevo sacks soon and we've got nothing to worry about. John
yeah.
O'Carroll, come round 7, my forward line will be Heaney, Flanders, Jackson Power, Reed and Combin with Garcia and Sexton on the bench. Actually don't mind that at all. Obviously, round 7 is a little bit to go, so it's like there's a lot of things that can happen in between there, but that looks, like it's a decent forward line. Could be looping Combin and Garcia via Sexton. I mean, happy days. Tiger Rewalt. Good to see you here, mate. Do I trade out Sam Berry or Sanders? Well, I think if Sanders is going to be the sub, I don't think he will be. But if by any chance he is or he's not named, you just trade the player out that's going to be the sub. Sam Berry's named on field. It's highly unlikely he's going to be the sub. If he's named on the extended interchange, well, there's a chance of it. When I say a chance, a higher probability of that happening. But I think, so to speak, if they're both playing, I'd probably keep Sanders this week. What do you reckon, mate? Are we keeping Sam Berry or Riley Sanders?
Well, I know it probably doesn't help him, but like I'd almost keep both if you can, just purely because Sanders still has that 49 break even. Obviously, if you're like me, where you need to get someone up to upgrade, then do it. But if you're in that position where you're only downgrading, you're not upgrading, I think you can definitely keep both. Sanders with the 49 break even, Berry with the 50. And I think what's most impressive by Berry is he scored 56 in 21% game time as the sub coming on last week, which is very good points per minute. And obviously that was crunch time. They came back late against Carlton, and he was a big influence in that. Does that
Mm-hmm.
get him into the best 22 this week, especially with Crouch out? I think it does. So if you can, keep both, but if you're trading one out, probably Berry, I think.
Wonderful, mate. Wonderful. Jono, again, could we go early on McAuliffe? I mean, yes, you can. I'm just of the belief that he is a better player than what they have in the midfield currently. Joshy highlighted before about the injuries and when they'll be returning. I just think if they're to push for finals, obviously in the coming years, probably not this year, they need to get games into someone like Kane McAuliffe. Joshy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, well, it's a weird one because technically it's not going early because he is on that bubble, but given
Yeah,
the
yeah.
buy, he's not going to get the price rise this round. But yeah, those injuries, they are a concern. But you're probably right. Like Uze needs to start playing the kids because they're not going to be making finals this year or in the next few years by the looks of it. But I think if you do need a downgrade option and you've already got the Closies and the Grahams of the world, then go early on him. I don't think it's a bad option at all.
Wonderful. The Supercoach Nuff. Would you upgrade this week if it meant grabbing Heaney or Steele? They're painful non-owns at the moment. Yes, I would. But when you say upgrade, obviously there's a lot of variables that come into that. Like who are you trading out? What's the go? If it's something like Sanders, McKercher, Massimo out, and you're grabbing Clossy, Graham, Heaney, then yeah, absolutely, 100%. But I think we need a little bit more information regarding that. But on the surface of it, Heaney and Steele sound like fantastic ins. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, both great ends. Heaney's averaging 144. Obviously, it's going to go
Yeah,
down a bit, but still 130 as well. Probably going to go down a bit as well. But both of them are flying. You're completely right. Bit team dependent if it actually is an upgrade or not. Who's coming out? But both those guys, I think, are priorities for anyone that doesn't have them.
yep. Wonderful, wonderful. We've got Michael Higginson. Good to see you here, mate. Thoughts on Bonner? Break even 57 to Took 109 either this week or next. Took has Sydney this week, so might not change too much this week, but still needs to play West Coast, North Essendon ×2, and Richmond ×1 to come. I mean, if it's not going to impact anything and you don't have immediate actions that you need to perform this week, like fix your team, prevent something not happening next week, then by all means go for it. You're in a very luxurious spot where you can do it this week or next week. If you were going to wait, you'd obviously hope Bonner absolutely smashes that break even, makes a little bit more cash, and Took drops a little bit more. Then you can probably reassess next week as well. So, I mean, again, this is team dependent, but in my eyes, there's nothing wrong with doing that this week. What do you reckon,
Yeah,
mate?
well, firstly, I'm absolutely stoked that he's added in the break evens. It makes it a lot easier than having to have a
Yeah,
quick squiz at the phone. But so thank you, Michael. I'm getting into it this week for land, as said before, which a lot will raise their eyebrows at, but have my reasons. But with that 109 break even in Sydney this week, this is the week that you can wait. But as he highlighted, he's got West Coast North, Essendon ×2 coming up in Richmond. And I think West Coast is the week after this week. So it's probably the last week that you can look to not get took in at his current price. But Bonner 57 break even. We've seen he probably sometimes won't even get that. So
mm,
could do it this week if you want those points on field. But I can also see a potential to wait.
wonderful, wonderful. Sammy Taylor, when to trade out Jackson and to who? Obviously not this week, even though Darcy is going to play, because chances are you've picked Jackson to help minimise the ruck buys and flip him up there from the forward line. But that's so hard to say, because if he pumps out a 140 this week or anything over 100, you're almost tempted to just leave there. And realistically, if we get a couple of weeks data of him scoring fairly well with Darcy in the team, chances are he's going to be a top 6 forward anyway. So you're really going to want to trade him out. If he completely shits the bed and he's just going to average, 70 with Darcy back after a few weeks of sustained data, then you make the call then. But I think the more information you have on a situation like this, the better off you'll be in the long run, so to speak. I know that's not really a definitive answer, but that's exactly what I'm looking to do because I am a Jackson owner. Joshy, I know you're preying on the downfall of Jackson. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, if I was an owner, I think at least this week you're going to wait. Against West Coast, he could literally still score 150, even if he is up forward a lot with Darcy in the ruck. I can't see him not scoring well because West Coast leaks so many points to these key forwards. So I think it's actually a win-win whether he plays ruck or not this week. But in terms of the weeks to follow, I think you just hold until he has a shit game with Darcy in the side. I think you can hold, shit game, then maybe. But we highlighted last week his average last season with Jackson was with Darcy, sorry, was 85, and his average without Darcy was 116 or something. So 85 is still not horrible. You can probably wait on that, but definitely hold him against West Coast this week.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, who do we have next? The Surf 420. Who would you bench out of Sheasel, Houston, Nakos, Massimo, Williams, Clossy, or Nazaya, Wanganeen, Malira? In my opinion, it would be one of Massimo or Williams. Flip a coin. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I think I'm in the exact same situation in terms of having to bench one of Massimo Williams and Closey. I think I'm just going to go Williams. His record against Giants isn't the best, but I think it's pretty injury affected. But I don't know. I think Massimo against North is a lot more of a chance to score than Williams is against GWS. And Closey, I don't know if you can't field him after back-to-back tons. I think you just got to have him on field because as someone last week who didn't have him on field after that 124, I really, really stuffed up my score compared to other people. So I think you just got to have him on field purely as the safe option and bench Williams.
Yep, understood, understood. Supercoach Nuff just replying and giving some more information to his previous question. Went early on Clossy. Trades were going to be McKercher, Sanders, Clark out for Graham, McAuliffe, Steele / Heaney, DPP. I would 100% lock that in. 100%. And then flip a coin of Steele or Heaney because they've been absolutely sensational so far. Would 100% do that. Joshy, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely would do that. It's pretty similar to, well, actually very similar to what I'm doing, except to get the extra cash, I'm doing lead down to Took. I'm all for that.
Wonderful, wonderful. What are your captaincy options this week, mate? Lead us off with a VC shout and a C shout. Thank you.
Oh, well, this week it's nothing blatantly obvious like the other weeks. Everyone went gone last week. As the
Everyone that
VC against
owns
OMAC.
Gorn, shout out to
That's
Johnny
true.
Smith, our dear friend who does not own Gorn.
That is true. That is true. At the moment, I've gone VC Steel, but I could potentially do Bont instead. I think Bont has a very good record against the Saints. Looking at it quickly now, his last three against Saints: 125, 181, and 159. But could they run Windhager on him? A very similar play to Durham, and try do what Durham did to Bont potentially, but. I think Steele at the moment, averaging 130, hasn't gone under 119. I think he's a really good VC option. And then the C, I looked at Sheasel against the Hawks, but I'm worried about McGuinness. So I might go Butters against Collingwood. They kind of leak points to inside
Yep.
midfielders. I know it's at the G, but Butters is averaging 127.8, so can't really go wrong there. I don't think.
Yeah. I'm in reference to the Butters call. I have Butters and Rosie, so if they were playing over in Adelaide, I'd be 100% on one of those boys. But at this stage, it's probably going to be Jack Steele into. It's difficult. I'd be tempted to go Steele into Rosie, to be honest, or Steele even into. I mean, Houston is a fantastic shout as well. Not sure you could trust him with the C. If you had a Heaney, I'd be very tempted to just go Rogue and VC, one of the Port boys. But at this stage, I'm most likely going to go Steele into probably Rosie. That's where I'm leaning to, but ideally it's just going to be Steele into Livingston, and I'm laughing.
Yeah,
Yep.
also just for the general public as well, if you have Sarong, chuck the C or VC on him against West Coast because he's the blatantly obvious one, but I don't have him. So
Luke Ryan could go. He could literally go 200 this week.
Yeah, I'd seriously worry about what he could do.
Absolutely. It's a shame that Sheasel's probably going to get attention from McGuinness, which is annoying. But I think the standout captaincy option is Heaney this week, and if you've got him, you're absolutely laughing. We've been on for basically an hour, mate, and we have one last question from our wonderful friend, Juicy Gerbil _ Supercoach Hub, Nath Braz, who has a better mo, Joshy or Clarkey. I'm glad that you only gave me those two as options because the correct answer is clearly myself. But I'm going to have to say Joshy because in between Clarkey's mo, you could land a plane there. He really needs to work on that. And that's going to conclude us for this evening. Thank you so much for everyone that's been in the live stream, that's put up questions, had some banter, and had a really good time in here. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Make sure you're following us both on X. Joshy, where can the listeners find you?
JG _ SC Hub.
Perfect. You can find me at Scoby_SC Hub. Don't forget to check out the TikTok. We've got links all over the Supercoach Hub Twitter page. Come look at our feeds. It's all there. Join the Hub on the Discord. Check out just all the discussions regarding Supercoach. Linktree's in the bio. And don't forget, if you've got some spare time, check out the boys from Honeyball. They do a fantastic job. You've got live updates, injuries, quotes from presses, literally everything you could ask for to just make the fantasy sporting experience better. And on that note, we're off. We'll be back next Tuesday. Hopefully all goes well and your teams have a fantastic week in the Supercoach world. Good night.